I'm going to call the meeting of November 8th to order. 2023-19 R/M Planning and Zoning Commission zoning text amendment for complete rewrite of the zoning regulations and map amendment for complete rezoning of the entire city.
So similar, but different. And I don't know if I sent Steve Clocky, I know I sent you an earlier version of this. I don't know if I sent you the last, I kind of tweaked it after your email. So this is kind of a requirement. Again, you guys just talked about the 25,000 square feet. So that would probably
It'll apply here too to 5,000.
Yeah, it may not be the same number for this. Maybe it's the different number, but this is kind of some modified language.
Steve, can I ask a question?
Sure. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So the first language, the first sentence there shall demonstrate that the construction methodology of the structure is either certifiable as, and then there's the bullets of listing all the programs. Why? And before you had building type is eligible for. This again is sort of just a reworking of that same concept where it doesn't actually. The construction methodology is not a term that I think lends itself well to explaining to people, oh, we need you to actually certify the building or certifiable. Yeah, so that terminology is a little.
Did you see this line here?
Yeah. Yeah, proof of.
Yeah. The one above number 2?
Yep. And it's not, is it construction or is it certification? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, my opinion is I don't really care about the certification. I care about if it is consistent with the standards and built to that way. Whether somebody goes on LEED, I've got my accreditation. That's a whole nother process, which I'm not as worried about. I'm worried about what actually gets built.
Okay.
So then wouldn't it be like proof of, oh God, I just lost the word. Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
No, I'm sorry. I started talking without.
No.
I don't remember what I.
I mean, again, feel free to wordsmith this.
Yeah, I'm trying to find my email that I sent.
Yeah, I tried to take what you put and put it into something that I thought was workable. So, I mean, I'm not married to this. So if you have, again, my point is I don't want to require people developments to have to go through some kind of certification process where they go and no matter what the whether it's the LEED or passive house, I don't think they have to go through the program as long as somebody says this development, somebody that's putting a stamp with a license on a piece of paper is saying that this project as built is consistent with those standards. That to me, that's more important.
Okay. Yeah.
So proof that project is consistent with one of the above standards in writing.
Correct.
I would say it must be certifiable under one of the following standards. I'm just looking at Somerville, Massachusetts language. They say new construction or modification of any building type greater than 25,000 square feet in gross floor area must be LEED Gold certifiable. That's what they chose. And it's LEED Platinum for 50,000. But you could just say must be certifiable under any of the following programs.
Okay. I'd have to read theirs and look at it next to ours. It seems like it's the same thing.
Yeah, I think you would just delete the demonstrate that the construction methodology of the structure is either you would just say 25,000 square feet or more shall be certifiable as, and then there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, does that sit? I mean, the only thing that's a problem with that language is says shall be certifiable. To me, almost sounds like I have to get it certified versus demonstrating that it's the same thing.
So that's the email I wrote to you, and maybe not everyone else is aware of, but that's the constant trouble that we always run up with as people who are required to be hired in order to actually certify a project. Certifiable just means that it's designed to a standard. It's not actually the project's not actually expected to certify, which includes a whole bunch of extra verification. So that the pre-approval stage of a project is typically much smaller than the rest of the project where the actual work is done. So if it was that you were more concerned about it actually happening, then you don't want the word certifiable. You want certified.
Well, so what if you say shall be designed and built? Because then you're saying you have to build it too. And then somebody's saying at the end, yes, it was built to these standards.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me give you an example. So LEED made this big push over the past few years to go international, which I think that was a mistake because they took their eye off the ball here in the U.S. But regardless, they did a whole bunch of gymnastics over issues like this, where here in the U.S. LEED requires Energy Star certification for the building, but you can only certify an Energy Star building in the United States. How are they going to do that in India or China or whatever, right? And so that's where that's just one example of the gray area that happens when you start requiring, and when you just aren't very careful about your language, is all I'm trying to say. So the certifiable thing works in the beginning, and then there's another line that you can add, which is exactly what you're highlighting here. Proof of actual construction, must be confirmed in writing. I wouldn't say by a licensed architect, because they, no offense, typically don't know these programs as well as like a consultant would. So the raters and the verifiers are the people who will actually support these certifications. So if you're doing passive house, you've got to hire a passive house certified, consultant, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm trying to see if there's any language in Somerville that would.
Yeah, I mean, I just started with an architect because I figured they would be but I'm
not trying to beat you up because I am an architect too. I'm just saying does need to be.
I'm fine with whatever the best person is that to change. That's fine.
Yeah, so the language from Somerville says prior to the issuance of the first building permit and prior to the issuance of the first certificate of occupancy, LEED checklist and narrative description outlining compliance with the certification level required by this section must be updated to identify any design changes made subsequent to the site plan approval, blah, blah, blah. And then manager or appropriate consultants must state that to the best of their knowledge, the building has been designed to achieve the stated LEED building standard. Yeah, so that's, again, just designed. So I think they intentionally left it open, and I think a lot of people do that because I think what the problem is if you require certification and then someone can't certify because there was a mistake made, the building's in the wrong damn place, anything like that, it's really hard to let that go. Like, how do you fix a building that was built incorrectly, right? So maybe they do the certifiable thing as sort of a pressure relief valve, but I'm all for certifying it because that's what I get paid to do. But I can see why there's value in certifiable.
And I'm sorry, Steve, that language was a manager or appropriate professional?
Appropriate consultant.
Appropriate. Well, the manager seems really open.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
To interpretation, but
it must be accompanied by an affidavit by a LEED AP project manager. So there you go.
There
Theirs
you go.
is just LEED though, so they have a very finite list of people who are qualified. If you're going to have 5 bullet points, which I think is a good idea to have options, and I tried to suggest options that were like on the same level or relatively close to each other. I think that's good, but you just need to water down the language. Or you can also say like issuance of a certificate by the certifying agency, things like that. So passive house, LEED, EGC, Zero Energy Ready Homes Living Building Challenge, they all have an actual like certificate at the end of the project that says this project's certified. So it could be something as simple as that.
Yeah, I think that's fine. One thing Mr. Chairman, we didn't really get into this concept overall, like what the commission actually thinks about this requirement. So I figured the languages we can definitely massage. But what do you think of F in general?
Oh, I'm supportive of what you have here. And I hope the rest of the commissioners feel the same. Is there anyone who doesn't?
Well, let me throw this out. I don't, I support this, but there's that 25,000 square foot figure again.
Yeah.
Does that, well, that's gross floor area, so that would include multiple floors. But would that, it's not footprint like the other language was that we were
Right.
just dealing with, but do we want to reduce that? What's the disadvantage of reducing it? Is it more onerous for smaller projects?
I would say that it is. There is a tipping point.
Just,
Let's go ahead, Nick.
no, is this the tipping point you would recommend?
Well, no, I don't think I actually suggested the 25,000. Maybe I did, and it would have come from what Somerville's entry point is. But so like if you think of a multifamily building that has 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom units, the average apartment size is, let's say, 1,000 square feet, maybe more. So you've got a 25 unit building. The 25 unit building, yeah. Any smaller than that, it starts to get a little bit onerous to certify. I mean, we certified single family homes. I'm not saying you can't do it, but I think that's a reasonable number. You could go a little bit lower, I suppose.
I mean, that's about it. It's gross floor area. So if you're talking, it could be, if it's 3 stories, that's, 8,000 plus or minus per floor. So that's not really large.
But like a Walgreens, that would fall under this, right? Like, aren't they like 10,000 square feet or something like that?
No, I think they're bigger.
But they're
I can
bigger.
check, but I think they're bigger.
Maybe we get some comparables at a future meeting just to see what we want. Like, I totally agree with you, Mike. Like, I hate for us to miss the opportunity on this, and then not make it the right size. And I think it's obvious for folks what this is giving us is the teeth that we've been missing in special permits, but also in site plan. That's this other column on the right here. Is so with the YMCA, we wouldn't be in that spot with the YMCA because you'd have this requirement built in, which I think was really clever from staff.
Yeah, and I think as we go through, you have the public hearings in early December, then you're going to vote a week or so later. That that whether that number stays at 8, that goes to 25 to 20. I don't think that's a material change to what you're looking at. I think that's something you've discussed and deliberated on, that number is still in play a little bit. So I think getting you on board with the concept is the key thing, and then massaging the language and what we settle on for the actual gross floor area can get worked out over the next month.
Well, Steve, I'm not hearing anyone objecting to the concept.
Can we talk about 2 and 3 just for informative, if that's okay, Lou?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Like, my understanding, so 1 makes sense. 2 is saying 75% more of the building's energy use is obtained from the development. So does that mean like just generated on site?
Yeah, and if you want to modify that language, that's fine with me too.
And then my only concern there is in the larger projects. Sorry, hey bud, calm down. Like the bigger projects, say they can't put the the larger projects have said, they can fill up the whole roof, but they can only use it on like the common area versus feeding it into the units, which is that. So this is, I guess, like, I'm just trying to think of, like, do we think this is actually someone could actually do this? Probably on smaller units or things like that. Sorry, I'm just talking out loud.
You can most certainly have a big building. Let's say it's only going to happen on a building that is flatter than it is tall, if that makes any sense. So the taller the building, the more floor area to roof area you've got, it's not going to work. But if you have a smaller or shorter building that's wider, you can put 5 panels up for unit A, 5 panels up for unit B, 5 panels up for unit C.
Oh, interesting. Okay. And
You can do that. But it's the infrastructure. So it's all the conduit, the wiring, the electrical panel space, the inverters. It may not scale.
Gotcha.
That's not the right word. But you're absolutely right that, most buildings around here at least are metered such that tenants pay their electricity. And it's hard to, unless the owner master meters and then bills tenants for their electricity, which nobody likes to do that setup. So it's not going to happen.
And then it's just this is an or statement, so
Right.
it's you can either choose making it passive house or one of those options, or you could do the 75% of your energy production on site, or you could do 75% of your
Right.
LID.
Is the
product.
last one a cop out? I just don't know enough to like. I worry 3 is a cop out.
I worry that too.
I don't know what both the Steves or Brian think to that one.
Why would you, I would ask back, why do you think it's a cop out?
It's I don't know how is it impact like what's the impact like if we would rate the impact of that versus the other versus 1 and 2.
I mean, they're all degrees. They're the first two are kind of related in terms of related around energy efficiency, but the third one is related to stormwater runoff, which has impacts on Long Island Sound, impacts on the water temperature, flooding, drainage, all those things. So it's just a different approach to trying to get more sustainability into the project.
What do we require? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say our drainage standards are a lot stricter than they used to be as of 2018, I think, right? So the low impact LID practices would be rain gardens. That's what everybody thinks of first. But it also, we require all of the stormwater up to 100 years or up to a 25-year storm, I think, to be held on site, and before it's released in a storm event that's higher than that, because there's an overflow pipe out of the system, and the systems are usually underground, Caltex, over a gravel base that allow the water to go in, and it's not going off the site, but we have to do that anyway. So it does seem this might be a little superfluous to what our DPW standards are, which are state mandated, would require. Do you have an opinion? Anybody have an opinion on that?
Let me check with DPW on that, because I'm not quite positive if all those things are considered LID, and what we could do, A, we could increase the percent, B, we can spell out the LID items that we want to include versus what's already required by DPW.
That would be great. Yes. So that people don't have to go look it up.
Agreed. Yeah, my concern was similar that this was setting the bar lower than some of our other standards. So I wasn't sure if this was the easy out because they already had to do it.
Yeah, I mean, kind of background as to why there's even a option 2 or an option 3 is I don't think we can strictly require option 1. I'm not sure if we have the legal authority to do option 1. So we're saying you can do option 1 or you can do option 2 or option 3. Because option 1 is typically building code related. So I think we're coming up with a creative way to make things legal.
For option 2, one of the things we talked about at our roundtable was about community solar. I know we don't have a whole lot of open land here in Norwalk, but and I think even in prior discussions we've talked about possibly leasing, working on agreements with neighbors and leasing their flat roof space to put solar panels up there. Is there something in option 2 where maybe we can permit or look into some of that? I don't know if anyone has appetite for that, but for a multifamily or a larger apartment building that may not have the roof space to offset 75%, could we permit them to partner with a warehouse in town or a industrial use in town and fill their roof with solar panels, for example? I don't know, just a thought on that.
The only tricky thing with that is if they did that, they kind of share it. But then if they redevelop that property, then they're going to fall under that same requirement for their site and put one of them out of compliance.
Gotcha. Okay.
I mean, another part of that number 2 is perhaps there's other ways beyond solar where they can achieve that 75%.
Yeah, I think of like geothermal as a, maybe an interesting way to to get around some of that, right? Where your heating costs are significantly reduced, your cooling costs are significantly reduced, so it reduces the amount that you need to generate on site.
Problem with geothermal is the proximity of all the houses here. We were looking into that, and because of the rigs that they have, they would need to take down trees and things like. Through my neighbors, they are like, yeah, we can do it in the back of your house, but then we are not liable if the drill were to crack your foundation or your neighbors. So
No.
you can do that in, like, I don't know, like Silver Mine area, but let's say, I don't know, like more urban Norwalk probably wouldn't work.
That's good context. I wonder for a 25,000 foot building if there would be more availability for that, but I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of that's going to be site specific, for sure.
I think conservation Steve has been trying to say something.
You don't mind me chiming in on a few things here. The Zero Energy Ready Homes program, which is designed by Department of Energy, does have language that says you don't have to have PV on your roof if the property receives renewable energy from a community solar system and there's a legally binding agreement in place for the provision of this energy to the building with a duration of at least 15 years, which I assume maybe that's lifetime of a solar panel or something like that, and ready to survive a full or partial transfer of ownership of the property. So, I mean, there is language out there for that would support community solar. And if DOE published it, I think it should work for us, but we can, whatever y'all agree to is fine there. I will say that the number 3 is just a pair versus it's not even apples and oranges. It's completely different, and I think opens the door. I'm referring to the stormwater, opens the door to a big development. Just like you guys are saying, they needed to hold most of the water, and all they have to do is add couple more Coltex, and they're retaining, they're be hitting the mark. And I think that's just a stormwater versus energy have, I think they're completely different effects environmentally. So I think it's a good idea to try to reward that, but I wouldn't put it in the same conversation as any of these certification programs. And then on that note of the certification programs, Steve, I'd sent you 2 different kind of tiers of programs. And I misspoke earlier when I said, I did review these to make sure they're all about the same. These are actually all about the same, but it's actually very, very, very rigorous. These are all very rigorous standards. Like LEED Zero basically means you're producing all the information you consume on site, pretty much. Passive house is not easy to do. It's definitely doable, but it's very aggressive. Same thing for EGC plus. So, you may want to consider having a couple of tiers, the lower tier being, LEED Gold or something like that versus LEED Zero. But I do understand that most of these bullets do represent a primarily energy-focused concern, which is great. I'm just saying it's very aggressive. These programs are all very aggressive.
What if it was certifiable as blah, 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 or 75% and just make the stormwater thing part of the deal?
I think the one issue is I don't think you guys have the legal authority to require some of these to just require the
stormwater.
No, the energy efficiency items. Those are typically building code items.
No, yeah. What I'm saying is in terms of what Chapin, oh my God, baby brain. What folks were saying about item 3 being sort of abusable or something if you just made it an and.
Right, because then you're also saying that number 1 or number 2, which are basically the same metric, are also ands.
No. We're saying certifiable or 75%. One of these 2, either 1 or 2 and 3 versus either 1, 2, or 3. the way you have it right now is either 1, 2, or 3,
Right.
making it 1 or 2, and also 3.
The only question, and then again, we probably should think about it a little more, is what we were talking about related to number 2 and the feasibility of that. Is that achievable on a lot of sites, or is it just going to be on larger sites, or how does that quite function?
Well, I like number 2 because, and then we can start thinking of these as 1A and 1B, and then 2, or something like that if that helps people. But anyway, I like the 75% because it doesn't require any sort of, you don't have to hire a consultant to achieve that. You don't have to do it any particular way as long as you get there. And of course, you'd have to include a mechanism for proving it. Is it over a 5-year period? Is it over a 1-year period? Is it over, on a month-to-month basis? Does it provide enough 75% of the building's energy? But I think there's definitely value to providing that sort of like, all right, we don't care how you get there, just get there. 75% is 75%. Maybe it only needs to be 50. I don't know, but that's all I wanted to add about that. It's nice to have an alternative to the certification process.
Steve, I don't recall the number, but we know that SNU won't do 100%. Will they do 75%? I know we had that conversation, and I just don't remember what the percent was.
Yeah, I'm not dodging your question, Mr. Chairman. I was just thinking maybe to Steve's point about the tiered system, maybe you look at something similar to what we have, and then you drop it down to that LEED Gold and comparable level, and then require 50% of something, and maybe it's a menu of the 3 with 2 tiers or different options. You can do 100% of this, or you do 50% of this plus 50% of that, and that gets you to the same point.
But clearly, there are some things here that you need to tease out. Why don't you come back to us with recommended language?
Yeah, we're I think we're getting close, so we'll tease it out a little more.
Okay.
And I'm
This is
happy to
awesome
help
to see.
however you guys want me to help on that.
Sure, thank you, appreciate that.
And just I guess a final note, I do think number 3 is incongruous. Is that the right word with the other 2? It's not. It is a different kind of standard that may not belong in this grouping as an option. But anyway, we already went over that. But I just wanted to. I'm kind of agreeing with Steve Clocky on this.
But Steve, you may look for someplace else in the regulations where you can put that language in.
Okay. Yeah, okay. No, yeah, we can do that.
Okay, let's move on.